Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it's my day to take over the Jaded Blossom blog. And I have a card to share with you today, or two. Hey, so I'm using the Arrow stencil, the XOXO stencil, the Love You Lot stamp set, the rectangle dice, one fancy Valentine, and I'm using the fancy heart die too. I'll be bringing something else into it a little later. So those are two backgrounds that I created on paper tray ink white cardstock with spun sugar, picked raspberry, and candied apple. And I just used a tailored expression blending brush and ink blended the backgrounds, just easy peasy. So now I've gone ahead and I've cut the fancy heart die, the background, with the fancy heart die, and I'm cutting it out of black cardstock from paper tray ink. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be stamping my sentiment from Love You Lots onto this black heart die. So I'm using my Misty. You'll see that I've got, that's my Nuvo sweeper tool. I use my anti-static tool also. Now I'm using my Ink on 3's Juicy ink, and I'm going to be stamping this sentiment onto this heart with my Misty. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply some pressure there, being careful not to push too hard because sometimes that can mush the sentiment a bit. So there we are. Now that background there is just the background piece that I'm going to be framing my stenciled white rectangle die. I'll be framing that onto my card base with the black. So I thought I might as well cut the heart that I'm using out of the center so I'm not wasting anything. So there we go. So I'm using Ranger's Detail White Embossing Powder. That's my Marvy Heat tool. And I'm just going to melt that powder. So I'm just going to heat it up until it melts and it gets shiny. And there we go. So super quick and easy. And it kind of makes a pop. It almost looks like a chalkboard. And then I'll be putting that on the card. These are super easy cards today. Now, I actually blended those backgrounds when I was doing, before I did my product review video, just to show what the stencils look like. So this is a piece of Lovely Lady paper tray ink cardstock that's cut at 4.25 by 11, and it's scored at 5.5. So I've got an A2 sized vertical card. Now this is a black piece of paper tray ink cardstock, and that is cut at 4 by 5.25 inches. And now I'm applying, this is the rectangle, and this is I think it's 3.75 by 5. So it's like another 1/4 inch smaller. So it just gives a nice framing. You want to make sure that is directional because you see there's a little heart in the center of all the O's, and you don't want that facing upside down. I almost made a boo-boo that way. You don't want to do that. So there we go. So now I'm going to put together the background of my next card with the arrows. So using my ATG gun here, and I'm going to line it up onto my card base. Now, when you're just using paper for layers, there's no reason why you can't cut your shapes out of the center of it and save some cardstock. It's just an easy way to stretch supplies. I do this a lot. There we go. So now I'm applying my ink blended background. And it's super fun and easy to use Jaded Blossom stencils to blend a background quickly using our stencil. And you can make your own pattern paper, which is awesome. And in the colors that you like, which is also awesome. So there we go. So that's my Hugs and Kisses sentiment. And I've got, see, I pushed too hard on that one. It's kind of squished. You see it's too thick? So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put that underneath the good one just to make it a little bit thicker. There's no reason to waste it. You might as well use it. You've already cut it out. So I use that for a little bit of thickness, and I'm going to be popping that on the front of my card. So there we are. So now on the inside, I decided to do a little bit of stamping just to make it look, give it a little decent look on the inside. So I'm using the cute little Nomi stamp set. I'm using the XOXO stamp. And I'm going to be stamping the XOXO stamp along the bottom of the inside of the card base using candied apple here and then picked raspberry. So on this one, I have a few little inky mess ups. I stamped it actually inside my other card too. I just showed you me stamping one, but I did stamp my other one without any mistakes. But of course this one, because I'm on a video, I'm going to make some boo-boos. So you'll see how I fix that. It's not a big deal. Don't throw something out you're creating and that's silly to get rid of it. You just go ahead and we can fix it. So now I'm going to grab a heart actually. It's a little solid heart stamp from Fancy Valentine. And I'm just going to cover up the boo-boos with it, you know, the little smudges. And it'll just looks like I have some random stamped hearts on there. And no one will know. They'll think I meant to do it like that. So, and like I said, there's no reason to, you know, make a new card base. It's perfectly fine. So now I'm going to stamp the sentiment. The nice thing about Distress Oxide inks is that you can stamp sentiments with them, and they're pretty sharp. So I sort of inked up half of the sentiment with candied apple and half with picked raspberry, and then I've kind of got a blended sentiment. And I did that on both cards. So now I'm going to be adding my hearts to the front of both card bases using the Big Mama foam tape roll from Simon Says Stamp. Now this is about half the thickness of the 3M foam tape. So it gives you a little bit of dimension, but not too much dimension. So I'm going to go ahead. The only thing, really the one drawback with this foam tape is that you have to cut it. You can't rip it or tear it like you can the 3M foam tape. That's kind of handy. You have to cut it with this one. I also find that the backing paper, it's harder to come off. Now, apparently that's not so in the newer releases of the Big Mama foam tape. But this is the original one from Simon Says Stamp. And I do find that the paper sticks a little bit firmly, and you've got to, you know, you got to work at it to get it off. It doesn't come off super easy. So I'm using like a little tool to slip under there and peel it off because, you know, I have no nails and just makes things easier. So I do that to both. I apply the foam tape to both. Now, this stuff is stickier than nobody's business. So that's a good point about it. So now I'm using my EK Success tweezers just to get my hands out of the way so I can kind of line up where I want the heart on my card base. There we go. So this is, you know, it's a very easy, straightforward card, I think. So now I'm just going to add some embellishments. Now these crystals were actually a freebie that I got from Studio Katia when I placed an order. And I don't even know if there was a title on them, like what they're called, but they were from Studio Katia, and they just happen to be in the colors that I'm using. So like, that's kind of handy. So I'm using my Studio Katia embellishment wand, and I'm sticking them down with glossy accents. And I'm just going to sprinkle a few here and there just for a little bit of, you know, a little oomph, because this is kind of a plain card. And, you know, although one might say that a plain card might be nice coming from me, right? I tend to zhuzh it up a little bit too much sometimes. I have a hard time stopping once I start, you know, with the embellishing and the, you know, I tend to go over the top, I think. I can't help it. So it's kind of, you know, if I would have left it like this, it would have been highly unlike me, but, you know, what can I say? So I'm just going to add, like I said, I'm going to add those little crystals to the exact same spots with my, you know, Studio Katia embellishment wand there. It has a little wax tip that allows you to grab the little rhinestone or the sequins that you're applying. It's pretty handy. So there we go. So yeah, so this is, like I said, a super fast and easy card. This is like Hugs and Kisses, Happy Valentine's Day. Now, if you left the Valentine's Day off, you could probably use it for something else. But I'm using it for Valentine's Day, so what the heck. So these are the centers of the cutout from the Fancy Heart Dies, the one with the little heart cutouts. And I just cut it out. I used the paper tray ink black cardstock again, and I cut it out, and I got all these little miniature stitched hearts, and I applied those, a couple of those in 2 different sizes. So I have 3 black hearts. Now I'm adding some Nouveau crystal drops in ebony black, and I'm just going to sprinkle them around because, you know, that's kind of what I do. And that's about it. Super fast and easy Valentines. You can sort of do this for any card. You can use a stencil, choose a stencil, choose your colors that you'd like to do, put your sentiment in a shape, and Bob's your uncle, you're all done. So thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you soon, I guess, for my next video. Bye, everybody.